This work became a part of the collection in late 2019 through the generous donation from Christina Kemble-Pritty through the Australian Government Cultural Gift Program, and it's quickly become one of our favourite works in the collection.
I think when we all look at the painting, we immediately respond to this remarkable relationship between the sitter and the artist. It's sort of a remarkable thing about a portrait that passes through generations. It captures not only the ability to render an individual, but to pass on something of the social history of the past.
The story behind the artwork is depicting a Melbourne paperboy, and the paperboys were a really prominent part of Melbourne's street life in the mid to late 19th century. They were a byproduct of the economic expansion of Melbourne after the Victorian gold rush. The boys were normally part of poor families, often with single mothers, and were often orphaned themselves and sleeping on the streets. Florence Fuller was a real independent lady. She never married and she did live a really exciting life. She travelled all over the world on her own, which was really unheard of at the time. She began her career through the influence of her uncle, Robert Dowling, who was a prominent Melbourne painter at the time. In the 19th century, she became a real prominent figure in Melbourne art scene and began exhibiting in the Victorian Artists Society for the National Gallery. In 1888, she actually won first prize for her portrait in oil for her work, The Herald Boy.
When we see the portrait, we see the avoidant stare of the individual, the heavy clothing which doesn't fit him. He's got a rough cut haircut and he's probably a little bit unkempt. But most notable is actually the white scarf around his neck. The newsboys of Melbourne wore these scarves as a way of replicating the idea of a white shirt, which they couldn't afford to clean or own, but as a way of presenting themselves in a much more appealing manner to the business people who were going to buy their papers.
This artwork is really important because it provides a snapshot into the social diversity of Melbourne's past. It also is a really fleeting moment between an artist who can afford to paint full-time and a young boy who was born without privilege.
It's a work which, in the modern era, we still relate to in the same way people would back then. I restored the painting after we acquired it, so it's had a varnish removal. So we've removed a discoloured varnish, which is a natural resin layer that covers the whole surface. Really what I'm trying to do is re-establish the tonal range of the artist. So the darkers are more dark and the lighters are more light, which is really important. It means we read how it's supposed to be read, and we sort of see the picture, not as it was painted, but much closer to how the artist intended.
From the first time I saw this work, I felt a real personal connection and an emotional response to the work. It's a really sad story of a little boy that we really know not much about. All that we know is that he had a really difficult life, and I just really hope that people that come into the gallery can connect with this work on a personal level as well.